so it seems here, by the signs in the state of Mississippi. This is all planned in cooperation between the authorities and the civil rights groups. An area had been marked out where they were allowed to demonstrate right in front of the Cow Palace. You can see there the arched roof of the Cow Palace, from which, inside of which, in a glass booth, we are bringing you these proceedings. We'll have more from San Francisco on the Republican National Convention in just 1 minute.
This is Jim McKay. Watch closely now. See how many of these exciting sporting events you can name. Some of them take place in this country, and some take place only in foreign lands. But you'll see them all these and many more, and you'll learn all about them week after week on ABC's Wide World of Sports. You'll see America's champion athletes and the champions of other countries compete. You'll travel the world to see the most exciting sports events wherever they occur. Take a look. How many of these sports were you able to name? Watch for your favorites on ABC's Wide World of Sports, Saturday afternoons on ABC.
That's Saturday afternoon at 5, 4 o'clock Central Time on ABC.
Ed Morgan reported a while ago that 42 of Ohio's delegation of 58, by the way, that's the fourth largest delegation in the entire nation, 42 of 58 voted to vote for Senator Goldwater for the Republican nomination. Well, now that Ohio delegation has been called back into caucus to ballot whether or not to vote unanimously for Senator Goldwater. And now you can possibly hear the applause on the floor. I think the applause is for the former mayor of San Francisco, George Christopher, who was a Rockefeller delegate, who ran on the Rockefeller ticket and who is now on the podium shaking hands and is now going to make a speech. The former mayor of San Francisco, George Christopher.
Well, after that beautiful introduction, I'm lost for words for the first time in many, many years. My fellow Americans and fellow Republicans, I indeed want to thank Mrs. Patricia Hitt and National Chairman Miller and the committee for this presentation and the words which have filled me with a deep sense of humility. And I'm honored, too, to have this opportunity of addressing the distinguished delegates of this great Republican National Convention. First, I, too, want to join in extending a most cordial welcome to all of you and to thank you for accepting our invitation to meet in our city. It was my pleasure to have this same privilege in 1956 when I was serving then as mayor of San Francisco. And may I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that that convention was eminently successful. I am confident that as we nominated the President of the United States from this rostrum in 1956, we shall do so again in this year of 1964. If, however, we remain steadfast to our time-honored Republican principles, this is an occasion for all Americans, regardless of party, to refresh their memories and to take inventory of the events that have transpired in the last 4 years. Let us all refresh our memories that 4 years ago, the opposition party was limitless in its promises to the American people. They would reach the millennium in job opportunities, in fiscal responsibility, in our international relations. Indeed, name the problem, and a press agent's miraculous solution was readily available. And now, 4 years later, our nation is beset with uncertainty and confusion, both at home and abroad. The shooting wars that General Eisenhower resolved by his mission to Korea have been set aflame again. More dispersed and more destructive than ever before. These events, my friends, have not only taxed our resources in assuring the security of America, but have provoked a dubious regard of our policies amongst our political allies as well. In the campaign of 1960, the opposition party, with rampant political abandon, charged deficiencies in every conceivable American effort, whether it involved our missile program, our international prestige, our domestic economy, our job potential, our international trade and credit, or any subject that might entice another stray vote. The world was told that America was woefully inadequate. Where are we now? Look at our debt, a new frontier indeed. Look at our nation's current budget, a new frontier in public spending indeed. In 1960, the opposition party told the world that 17 million Americans were going to bed hungry every night. And now, 4 years later, the incumbent president tells the world there are 35 million Americans living in poverty. I will not question the validity of these figures. In fact, I think we must thank the incumbent administration for reminding us of a situation which permits some comparisons. Because if 17 million Americans were living in poverty 4 years ago, and if we have 35 million Americans living in poverty today, then we must ask this simple question. Who, I ask, who has been minding the store in the past 4 years? And bear in mind, too, that this self-confessed march backward has transpired under an administration with a unique advantage of a 2-to-1 majority in the Congress. How disconcerting it is for the American people to watch this administration frantically looking for the trouble their mismanagement has created, finding the malady spreading everywhere, diagnosing it wrongly, and applying remedies that are worse than the disease itself. I emphatically question the political philosophy, my friends, of an administration that rocks the ship of state and then embarks on a program of convincing everyone that there is a storm at sea which only their captaincy can control. Yes, there are too many unemployed people in America today, almost 5 million of them. And yes, indeed, there are too many American families suffering today from the antics of economic agnostics who are blindly struggling in a whirlpool of artificial theories and improvident management of our country's resources. All of the inequities, all the unemployment, all the poverty, all the deprivation that exists today will remain with us as long as we are led by people who are not learned and dedicated practitioners of our free enterprise system. 4 years ago, our government has been misdirected by impractical economic theorists who persist in trying to spend their way to fiscal solvency. They cannot seem to comprehend the fallacy of these policies which countermand every recognized and proven economic precept in the history of free civilization. Ask any housewife, ask any average white-collar worker, ask any shop worker, ask any senior citizen living on their retirement income, ask anyone who depends on a weekly paycheck for their sustenance what has been the effect in their household as a result of the unsound, artificially inspired inflationary spiral that has consistently detracted from the buying power of their incomes. We must not permit this incompetence to further embalm the traditional progressive spirit of America. I do not know how much we may have saved, my friends, how much we may have saved by turning out the lights in the White House. Instead, it occurs to me that America's efforts might be more productive if we placed in the White House a new, vibrant, high-voltage Republican generator, a Republican generator to light up the White House once again in its fullest glory and highest efficiency, transmitting to the American people and to the entire free world a renewed spirit of enlightenment and confidence and understanding. We can no longer afford to leave America's storehouse of potential growth so forlorn and untenanted. And while they're thinking only of the next election, we will continue to think of our future generations and how best to bequeath to them a legacy worthy of our most sanctified traditions. The American people, understandably, are becoming steeped in skepticism over an administration that seeks huge contributions from the rich and votes from the poor on the pretext of protecting each from the other. The party of Lincoln, our party, has a great heritage, and quite properly, we express pride in this heritage. However, we must not and we will not be content to bask idly in the glories of the past. Rather, we will act now with force and determination. Our priceless heritage will serve as an inspiration to solve the many social, economic, and philosophical problems that today trouble the American people. And we will, by spirit and by action, manifest our concern for the dignity and the self-respect, the equal opportunity, and the human rights of every American. We shall indeed exemplify our abiding respect for the heritage of the Republican Party by acting vigorously and forthrightly in the ever-living present. We will persevere in these efforts because we are adherents to the proven principles that have carried our country forward over the decades under the inspired doctrines enunciated by the founding fathers of our country. We will deliberate carefully, compassionately, intelligently, and realistically, and we will nominate the candidate who will best portray our true image to the American people, for the sake of not just our party, but for the sake of all the American people, for the benefit of this and future generations of Americans, and for the enduring consolation and trust of freedom-loving peoples throughout this very troubled world. Again, a thousand welcomes to all of you. Let's stand by as a united party and go on to victory in November. Thank you very much.
Ex-Mayor Christopher of San Francisco has just exercised another immutable law of politics, which is that no matter how deeply the party is divided, you denounce the opposition and you get applause. Ex-Mayor Christopher did, and there was applause. I don't know what significance politically this possibly can be, Howard, but I reported earlier that the present mayor, John Shelley, used to be a milk wagon driver, and before he entered politics, ex-Mayor Christopher was a man in the dairy business. We have some activity down on the floor involving the civil rights situation. Before going down there, just let me report accentuating this problem. George W. Lee, a Negro Republican from Memphis, Tennessee, who appeared before the protest committee last Monday, complaining the Goldwater forces in Memphis were responsible for his loss of delegate status, hopes to appear before the Credentials Committee today, and, if necessary, will take his complaint to the convention floor. Now, are we ready to go down to the convention? Let's go down now to the convention floor for a report on the threat from some delegates reported by Frank Reynolds.
The talk of a walkout of Negro delegates at this convention is more than just talk. This is Mr. George Parker, a delegate from the District of Columbia, who took part in that exchange with Senator Goldwater in the Platform Committee last week. Mr. Parker, you've taken part in these meetings, and is there going to be a walkout of Negro delegates?
I have every reason to believe that there will be. I attended several conferences in which it seems to have been almost the unanimous opinion of those who attended that there should be a walkout if Goldwater is nominated.
At what point will that walkout take place, Mr. Parker?
I expect that to occur upon the fact when he is elected.
You mean when he gets 655?
665 votes.
The Negro delegates will get up.
And leave the convention. That's the plan. And it was the plan up until this morning. I don't believe there has been any change in it, and I doubt that there will be any change in it.
Mr. Parker, when the Negro delegates walk out of this convention, are they walking out of the Republican Party, too?
Well, not necessarily so. I think that it was a consensus that they ought to support the candidates in their various states, but not the nominee for president.
Well, this will be rather a dramatic call to Negroes all over the country to oppose Senator Goldwater.
And that is the purpose of it, because we feel very sincerely that he should not be supported.
Mr. Parker, how long have you been a Republican?
All of my life. My father ahead of me was a Republican, and I voted the Republican ticket as soon as I became 21. I voted it consistently ever since.
Have you ever voted Democratic?
No, I have not. I have not, and I hope I shall never have to.
But this year you might.
I would hate to do it. I can say specifically that I can't vote for Goldwater. But as to whether I'd vote for Johnson, I would not like to say. I doubt that I would.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parker. Now back to ABC News anchor booth.
There are 2,600 delegates and alternates here. Of those, there are 8 Negro delegates and 4 Negro alternates. James Haggerty of ABC reported from the St. Francis Hotel in Midtown San Francisco that John Eisenhower, the general's son, will introduce Governor Scranton at a rally for Governor Scranton in Union Square in front of the St. Francis Hotel later today. A while ago, you saw Senator Goldwater meeting with President Eisenhower. We go back now to the St. Francis Hotel now for a report on that meeting by ABC's Bill Lawrence.
Just a few minutes ago, former President Eisenhower and Senator Goldwater concluded about a 15-minute meeting. It was chiefly significant because Senator Goldwater, who is also the front runner for the presidential nomination in this convention, was also the first to call upon the former president at his headquarters here on the 6th floor of the St. Francis. Governor Scranton, who might have been expected to come early, has not even asked for an appointment yet, but he will be given one as soon as he does request it. When he left the meeting with President Eisenhower, Senator Goldwater was smiling broadly. I asked him how he now stood in the battle for the nomination, and he estimated his first ballot strength at about 800 votes. With only 655 needed to nominate, this is a very comfortable margin, but it also represents, in Senator Goldwater's own estimate, a gain of 60 votes since yesterday. I asked him how come the gain, and the senator replied that his cause had been greatly helped by Governor Scranton's letter challenging him to an open debate on the floor of the convention before the nomination procedure begins on Wednesday. There will undoubtedly be a long list of politicos coming in and out of the St. Francis to see General Eisenhower in the next few days, but it seems apparent now that the Scranton forces have given up any hope they might ever have entertained that the former president would endorse them or give them some help either in public or in private chats with the delegates. This is, of course, a realistic view of the situation because Senator Goldwater does have this convention in his firm grasp, and General Eisenhower is content to remain neutral. This is Bill Lawrence in the lobby of the St. Francis Hotel.
ABC's political editor, Bill Lawrence, just reporting on the Eisenhower-Goldwater meeting earlier today. We'll be back with more of ABC's coverage of the Republican National Convention in just 1 minute.
Okay, Mike, we got a minute break. Better set up for the next shot. Got another cigarette?
Help yourself.
Thanks. I'm smoking Raleigh's now, too.
Oh?
Yeah, last Friday night when we were setting up, smoked some of yours. Like the taste. Raleigh's have a real tobacco taste. Did you save the coupons?
Sure do. That's how I got my wristwatch. I got it free for Raleigh coupons.
Think I'll start saving the coupons, too.
Raleigh coupons, good for free gifts. And now, you get famous Raleigh coupons on Filter Tip Bel Air. Only new Bel Air gives you true tobacco taste with a light touch, just the right touch of menthol. Enjoy extra smoking pleasure, plus valuable Raleigh coupons on Raleigh Filter Tip or Plain End and on Light Menthol Bel Air.
For a minute, not for station identification, but simply for a quick recapitulation of what's happened this morning at the first session of the Republican National Convention here at the Cow Palace. In the first place, it got underway remarkably quickly, only 34 minutes late. In the second place, the Ohio delegation caucused and gave Senator Goldwater 42 out of the delegation's total of 58 votes. In the third place, the Illinois delegation caucused and indicated an increased strength for Senator Goldwater there. In the fourth place, Senator Hiram Fong of Hawaii announced that he would run on the first ballot as a favorite son. Now, whether this is a Scranton ploy to try to delay Senator Goldwater has not yet become clear, although Senator Fong did report that he would not find it difficult to run on the same ticket with Senator Goldwater. Howard, have I left? Oh, one other thing, particularly that we've just reported from the floor. The Negro delegates to the convention, numbering only 8 in all, have threatened a possible walkout against Senator Goldwater's candidacy. Have I forgotten something, Howard?
I think you've covered almost everything. We now want to have a report from the pickets outside. There's a picket line still moving outside, and we have a correspondent there, Roger Grimsby, who is going to report to us about that scene there.
I'm standing just outside the main entrance of the San Francisco Cow Palace. And here, in an area that has been bounded by police as an area for picketing, there are pickets. The pickets began their marching, their singing, their chanting, their protest over the possible nomination of Senator Barry Goldwater at 10 o'clock this morning. They have promised to continue this kind of parade and picketing through every single session of the GOP National Convention. This is Roger Grimsby.
Now, Senator Thomas Kuechel, who is the biggest vote getter in California Republican circles, is going to make a speech, and here he is on the podium. We go down to the podium.
Delegates to the Republican National Convention, my fellow Republicans, ladies and gentlemen, California is highly honored that our party should choose San Francisco for its national convention in 1964. And I am very glad to welcome all of you to our state and to this city. Your decisions will be of the most profound importance to the future of our republic, and beyond that, to the future of mankind. California, now our country's most populous state, has an enormous stake and a lively interest in all which you may do. Republican doctrine, written into law in past years, has helped California to conserve our natural resources, to build our harbors and our highways, to expand our education, and to irrigate our farms. Living alongside the Pacific Ocean and sharing a common boundary with a friendly foreign neighbor, our cosmopolitan 18 million citizens are drawn from every one of the earth's corners, and perhaps from every blood and faith. And together we share a common pride that we are all free. Just a century ago, in 1864, your political forebears met in convention in the midst of a civil war. The issue was the American Union. Should it remain supreme, or should it become subservient? The issue was slavery. Should a human being in America be a chattel or be free. The delegates at Baltimore adopted by acclamation an American platform dedicated to the integrity of the Union and to the paramount authority of the Constitution and the laws of the United States. It courageously sought to end slavery. Lincoln was vindicated, and the Union emerged triumphant. The world has turned over many times since the conflict of the 1860s, but the struggle against slavery in all its ugly forms and facets remains an unfinished task. But the Republican Party, by its solemn word, again and again has rededicated itself to equal treatment and equal dignity before the law to all our people, rich and poor, black and white, Christian and Jew. And in the worldwide fight against the slavery of imperialistic, godless, international communism, Republican platforms and Republican leadership have consistently pledged a strong America so that we shall remain a free America. We have accepted the inescapable duty of leadership in the global quest for liberty and for peace with justice, where our newfound nuclear power may serve the human race rather than exterminate it and obliterate this globe. San Francisco has memories for you as it has for me. Here, the town meeting of the world, the United Nations, was born in 1945 to give new hope to a war-weary humanity. Here, that great patriot, General Eisenhower, was renominated by our convention in 1956 to give the country peace and progress for another 4 years. Republicans, yours is the challenge to face the dangers and the opportunities of tomorrow. You can rededicate this American political party to the high road we have been traveling. You can write a platform, and you can select a nominee who will stand before the American people and receive their faith. All America fervently prays that you shall have the courage and the vision and the wisdom to do the job.
The music you have been hearing this morning.
The senior senator from California, Thomas Kuechel, who has just given a welcoming address on behalf of the state of California, is, of course, one of the most implacable foes of Senator Goldwater, but out of decorum, observance of decorum to his role, there was no indication of this contention between them. Incidentally, Governor Edmund G. Pat Brown of California, a Democrat, has not been invited to welcome the convention. Scranton forces have prepared a resolution for presentation at the opening session today, challenging the seating of lily white delegations from the South. We'll be back with more of ABC's coverage of the Republican National Convention after a word from Xerox.
You lay the original down, turn the little knob, press the little button, and wait. You lay the original down, turn the little knob, press the button, and wait. And you know what? If you can do that, you can copy a cat, or an orange rubber mouse, or a deed to your house, or your rich uncle's will, or an unpaid bill, or a page from a book, or a picture you took, or your company's mail, or a recipe for snail. Or a big red rose. Or your big red nose. Or a crook's fingerprints. Or a leftover blintz. Well, I knew he couldn't do that, you know.
Got some things to say.
We've come back now from that remote switch and are back in our glass booth high above the Cow Palace floor, which is peppered and salted with delegates and alternates. Traditionally, this opening morning session of either party's convention is not attended to the utmost. The momentum begins to build in the afternoon session. And we have just been informed that ABC's Frank Reynolds has made contact with New York Governor Rockefeller down on the floor, and we're going to try now, although we're having a little difficulty, we're going to try. Frank Reynolds down on the floor with Governor Rockefeller.
Yes. Governor Rockefeller has now taken his place here in the New York delegation. Governor, a floor fight is about to erupt here, is that right?
That is correct.
What's it going to be?
On credentials. Rules on credentials to prevent discrimination.
Actually, you're going to move that the rules be changed to disbar or to disallow anyone from taking a seat.
The Scranton forces are going to move this.
Governor Rockefeller, I wonder if you can make an evaluation of the prospects of any change in the move toward Goldwater in this convention.
I don't think that you can say there is a move towards Goldwater. I think Scranton has been gaining strength. The polls, which now show him universally, the polls throughout the country, a 60-30 favorite over Goldwater.
He's gaining popular strength. That is a delegate strength, Governor.
Every estimate, Governor, is nevertheless that Goldwater already has a sufficient number of delegates to win on the first ballot.
That is not Scranton's estimate.
Is it your estimate?
I'm following his estimate. I'm working with him.
And you know for sure that Senator Goldwater does not have enough for a first ballot?
I'm just giving you the Scranton estimate of the situation, and with the popular support growing throughout the country, Governor, I think the delegates will increasingly be responsive to
How is it
that
manifested,
reaction.
Governor, this popular support that you say is growing for Scranton?
But we haven't had the vote yet.
Do you think it will show up in the delegates?
Will be manifested on the floor here?
I've already given you my opinion.
Governor, this morning the Ohio delegation,
Just
40
one at a time.
Yes.
The Ohio delegation this morning, 42 votes for Scranton, or Goldwater.
For Goldwater.
How do you...
They haven't voted on the floor yet either.
No, sir, but they had a caucus, and 42 say they're for Goldwater.
Well, Governor, are you saying that people are voting one way in caucus, and then they're going to vote another way when they get out on the floor?
Listen, I've given you my opinion. That's what you asked me.
Thank you, Governor. All right. That apparently is about all we're going to get out of Governor Rockefeller at this moment. But watch now for this floor fight to erupt over credentials. Now back to the ABC News anchor booth.
We have been watching the ceremonial parts of this first session, but now the organizational part, getting it ready to do business, has begun. There's a roll call going on down at the podium now. The roll call is being given by Mrs. C. Douglas Buck, Jr. of Delaware, and if you want to know, as you can probably suspect, Mrs. Buck is a concession to the television age. She is a tall, handsome, young woman who was chosen especially because she is photogenic.
The delegate from Iowa, Senator Jack Miller.
Mr. Chairman, I move that further reading of the roll be dispensed with, and that the Secretary be instructed to incorporate the call at this point in the proceedings of this convention with the same force and effect as though read in full at this time.
You have heard the motion. Is there a second? All in favor will say aye. Contrary, no. The motion is adopted. It is ordered that the remainder of the call be not read, but that it shall be incorporated as a part of the proceedings of this convention with the same force and effect as though the call were read in full at this time. The next order of business is the presentation of the temporary roll of the convention. Will the Secretary please come forward to present the temporary roll of the convention?
Mr. Chairman, In accordance with the instructions of the Republican National Committee, I now present the temporary roll of the delegates and alternate delegates to this convention.
Temporary roll of delegates and alternates certified to this convention by the Republican National Committee has been presented by the secretary of that committee, and under our rules of procedure will be referred to the Committee on Credentials when selected. The next order of business is the election of the temporary officers of the convention. I have been instructed by the National Committee to nominate as your temporary chairman the Honorable Mark Hatfield, Governor of the State of Oregon. Are there any other nominations? If not, all in favor of the election of Governor Mark Hatfield as temporary chairman will say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and Governor Mark O. Hatfield is unanimously elected temporary chairman of this convention.
The Republican National Convention has just officially transacted its first order of business, the election by unanimous voice vote of a temporary chairman in the handsome young person of 42-year-old Governor Mark Hatfield of Oregon. We'll be back with more on the convention after this pause for station identification.
See Saturday highlights of the Gold Cup Regatta, the Grand Prix, and the Irish Sweepstakes on Wide World of Sports on ABC.
Attention all stations. Ray Eisenhower press conference, 5:30 p.m. New York time, live to full net. Program is expected to run to 5:58:39, followed by an 18-second net ID and a 1:03 station break. Runover is permitted.
ABC News continues its coverage of the Republican National Convention from the Cow Palace in San Francisco, brought to you by Xerox Corporation and by Clairol, creators of the exciting natural look in beauty.
The main organizational matters of the morning are now in progress. Governor Mark Hatfield has been appointed temporary chairman, and will make the keynote speech. He makes the speech tonight. A delegation has been appointed to escort him to the hall, which is a piece of ritual. Now we go down for a speech at the platform.
One of the things each of us in public life is impressed by is the outstanding talent of our young people. In politics and government, they are articulate, intelligent, and capable. The young man that it is my privilege to introduce is an outstanding athlete. He participated in football, basketball, and tennis. He has participated actively in many extracurricular activities as president of his class and the student council. He has maintained an outstanding record scholastically. We in Wisconsin are particularly proud that he was selected as this year's national champion American Legion orator. In addition to traveling half the nation in his appearances at American Legion contests, he has also found time to serve as governor of Badger Boys State and will be a senator at Boys Nation in Washington starting July 17th. It is with great pride, Mr. Chairman, that Wisconsin presents one of its finest young people, a resident of Wausau, Wisconsin, Mr. David Marr. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knowles. Mr. Chairman, delegates to the Republican Convention, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to express my gratitude, first of all, to the organization that made it possible for me to be here. Many of their members died that we might live. All were prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice. I refer, of course, to the American Legion, who each year, as part of its Americanism program, sponsor an annual oratorical contest. I wish to, in particular, express my appreciation to National Commander Daniel F. Foley and Americanism Chairman Daniel O'Connor, who are responsible for this part of this program for the American Legion. I know that I speak for all high school youth in commending the Legion for sponsoring this project as part of their Americanism program. The title of my oration was Our Constitution, Temple of Freedom. I have built thee an exalted house, a place for thee to dwell in forever. These were the words of Solomon in answer to God's plea to build a temple. Why did Solomon build this worshiping place? In ancient times, the temple was a sanctuary for all. So in the 18th century, our forefathers built a political sanctuary that was to offer freedom and security for 177 years. See these words on the cornerstone. The Constitution of the United States, 1787 A.D., Temple of Freedom. When Solomon started his tribute to God, he first laid the stones to form a foundation. A strong beginning was needed for firmness and support. In the same manner, the framers of the Constitution constructed a preamble, a statement of belief on which all of their principles were based. It began, "We the people." Notice this little word, "we." It is the key to everything. It did not say, "We the kings and princes of this land." Nor did it say, "We the representatives of separate states," or "We the representatives of the one true religion," or "We the representatives of the whites or blacks." No. It said, "We the people," meaning all the people. On the altar in our Temple of Freedom were burning candles, each representing one of our nation's rich values. To this altar came people from all over the world. The first candle symbolized respect for the dignity of the individual. Mussolini once said, "The state is all, man is nothing." The burning flame of our candle shouts to the world that the state exists for man, man, not for the state. The second candle represents respect for freedom. The third candle represents respect for individual differences. These burning candles reflected values based on a deep faith. Man was not to be regarded as a cog in a machine, not as an animal ruled by blind mob passion, but man is a free human being, created in the image of God, seeking justice and opportunity for all. Are these values being reflected in America today? Eric Sevareid has said, the greatest danger facing America today is that of creeping personal corruption. The greatest danger of creeping personal corruption is that it slowly destroys the sense of corruption. Let us stand on guard against this kind of corruption, as our constitutional fathers did who built our temple. Historian James Beck said of them, they were a group of men of substance and honor who could debate for months in the hot summer weather without losing their tempers. In the dome of our temple is a mighty bell. Listen to its ringing message, proclaiming freedom throughout the land. Ladies and gentlemen of this convention, ask not for whom this bell tolls. Remember, it tolls for thee and for me, for it is our Constitution, our temple of freedom.
That clean-cut young man was David Bruce Marth, 16-year-old citizen of Wausau, Wisconsin, the winner of the American Legion Oratorical Contest. We'll have more from San Francisco on the Republican National Convention in just 1 minute.
Hello, this is Rube Goldberg with a scheme to make saving easy and automatic. Here's the way it works. Man A is asleep in bed, and his contented breathing inflates balloon B. Bird C in cage thinks balloon is an egg and sits on it, causing string D, which is attached to bird, to unlock reel on fishing pole. Line unwinds, lowering sinker E, which hits man on big toe. Switching of toe turns on fan F, blowing money G from dresser into wall safe H. Or an even easier way to save is to buy United States savings bonds on a regular basis through the payroll savings plan where you work. When you sign up, your savings are set aside before you get your pay, and U.S. savings bonds pile up for you automatically. Ask about this plan next payday.
In approximately 20 minutes from now, we're advised, President Eisenhower will appear on ABC, interviewed by James Haggerty and Bill Lawrence. Here you see the whole floor. These delegates, the average age of them is 50. The average income is $15,000. You can see they're well above the national average in all respects. More than 80% of them have had a college education. It's a vast change in the quality of delegates since the old days when there was one time when all the delegations were not filled, and if you happened to be a tourist in the town where the convention was taking place, you could go and sit down and be a delegate. Now we're going outside for an interview with James Farmer by ABC correspondent Roger Grimsby.
The pickets, the parades, and the singing will continue here throughout the GOP National Convention. The Corps' plans go beyond that. This is James Farmer, Corps' National Director. What are those plans?
In the event Senator Goldwater is the Republican nominee, then we plan to picket every meeting that he holds, every speech that he makes during this whole convention campaign.
Assuming his nomination here in San Francisco, will there be anything but parades and picketing as a result?
Well, there'll be rather massive demonstrations, and I, of course, cannot anticipate or predict what will happen in the next few days of this week.
Could civil disobedience be a part of it?
That might be conceivable.
Would this be a core direction, or would individuals act as individuals?
Well, we expect that whatever is done will be under core direction.
You would say, then, that the nomination of Goldwater will set off civil disobedience very likely.
I expect that it will, not only here, but elsewhere in the country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farmer. In addition to this, the picketing continues. There has been some heckling in the area. The area of picketing is restricted according to an agreement that was made with the San Francisco, Daly City, and San Mateo County Sheriff's offices. In addition to that, some pickets are on the outside. They carry signs with the name Goldwater. There has been some heckling, but whenever it has erupted, it has been stopped quickly by the sheriff's officers. The picketing, as we said, to continue here day and night as long as the sessions are in session. And with the nomination of Goldwater, should that come to be, as Mr. Farmer has told you, there will be a demonstration at every single speech he makes during the campaign up through November. This is Roger Grimsby, returning you now to the anchor booth.
We've been watching and listening to an interview by ABC's Roger Grimsby with James Farmer, the head of CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality. They're in the picket area outside the Cow Palace where the Republican National Convention is proceeding. The other side of that civil rights coin, we reported earlier, Howard Smith and I, that there was a move to question the so-called Lily White delegation composition in the convention. And commenting on that proposed resolution, which could contest so-called Lily White delegations, Texas Senator John Tower has said there has been absolutely no discrimination in the selection of delegations, and he said it was a terrible thing even to imply it. On this business of the letter that Governor Scranton wrote to Senator Goldwater, it's having its effect, but it's not the effect, Howard, that Governor Scranton anticipated. Have you got Bruce Miller's report there from Utah?
I have indeed. Not only Utah, but in many other states, undecided delegates are now shifting to Goldwater, saying they're doing it because they didn't like the tone of the Scranton letter, which was published last night and this morning. Down on the floor, Congressman Les Ahrens is going to talk about that letter and its effect, and we switch there now for an interview by Frank Reynolds of ABC.
Leslie Ahrens, the House Minority Whip, the report, so to speak, on the caucus of the Illinois delegation. Congressman Ahrens?
Yes.
What was the reaction among the delegates from Illinois to the letter from Governor Scranton?
Well, I did not ask that the delegation take immediate action in regard to this. However, a committee has been appointed, a drafting committee, to take action on this matter and to later on present it to the committee for any decision that they might want to make thereon.
Well, you're going to draft a resolution, is that right? Well, critical of Governor Scranton?
I'm expressing the opinion of one member of the committee now when I say that I trust that is exactly what we do. I felt very strongly that this matter should be brought to the attention of all the Illinois delegates because it's such an extraordinary letter, and I think it's well that we keep abreast of what's going on at this convention at all times. Therefore, my statement to the group of delegates from Illinois, the 58, that this is what happened, and I merely called it to their attention.
Well, Illinois apparently wants to go on record as being critical of Governor Scranton for writing this letter. Well, specifically, what did they object to?
Well, this would be premature to say what they want to do. I think when the drafting committee of three finishes, they will present some sort of a statement or resolution before the group at another meeting, and at that time a determination will be made.
Well, was there one principal objection to any of the phraseology used by the governor?
Well, I think many of them were terribly surprised, as I was, by the very extreme statement made by Governor Scranton in relation to delegates to this convention and to the action taken by the platform committee. And this, I thought, our delegates should all know about, because at times like this, it's hard for each and every one to keep up with the things that are developing from hour to hour.
And then Illinois caucus this morning, and what was the vote?
On the vote as to the support of Goldwater, was 52 for Goldwater, 2 for Mr. Rockefeller, and the other 6 uncommitted. The other 4 uncommitted, yeah.
The other 4 uncommitted.
Yeah.
So Governor Scranton's letter did not gain him any friends among the Illinois delegates.
No, rather amazing thing that the position was strengthened over what it was a couple of weeks ago when we had the meeting in Chicago, and at which time a vote was taken. There are 4 more this time committed to Goldwater than that at that particular time.
Thank you very much, Congressman Ahrens. Now back to the ABC News anchor booth.
That was Congressman Les Ahrens of Illinois, the Republican whip in the House of Representatives in Washington. We may see a little action on the floor in just a minute. There is a purely ceremonial and ritual attempt to pass the former rules and accept them. When that happens, Mr. Newton Steers, the Republican state chairman of Maryland, representing the Scranton forces, is going to offer a substitute motion asking for a new rule, not the old rules, a rule that no delegation from states practicing racial discriminations should be placed on the permanent rolls of the convention until there has been an investigation of their credentials. So we may possibly see that discussion today instead of Tuesday as we expected it would. Here's the floor. More than 2/3 of the delegates are there, more than 3/4, in fact. This is a very good attendance for this first day ceremonial and organizational meeting. Though I dare say many are not paying attention. It's a curiosity you may be interested in knowing that they can't hear what's going on as well as you at home on television can hear what's going on. In the Los Angeles Democratic Convention 4 years ago, you couldn't hear anything on the floor, so the public thousands of miles away heard the whole thing, and people sitting right under that podium heard absolutely nothing but a blur of sounds and voices. They're still going through the organizational matters. They have appointed all the officers. Actually, they chose them a long time ago. The convention just gives its consent now. The most dramatic thing that will happen, if it does happen, if the Scranton forces can get away with it this time, is when there is a motion from the floor to adopt the ordinary, normal rules, and that is challenged by the Scranton men who want a rule to prevent Southern delegations who practice discrimination from taking a seat.
There's no doubt in anybody's mind, Howard, surely, that there is going to be any success on the part of the Scranton forces or the non-Goldwater forces as a whole. But what is going on here is a very important part of the political process, and that is that the opposition to the front-running Senator Goldwater is trying to establish a record which it may be able to use later after the convention is over, indeed after the election is over. The numbers game is admittedly not terribly interesting. There is this one point about it, Howard. For the first time, I think in the procedure of last week and this week, the ABC total is more modest than Senator Goldwater's total himself. In that exclusive pickup we had from the St. Francis Hotel a little while ago between our Bill Lawrence and Senator Goldwater, the senator claimed on the air, and this was for the first time by him, that he himself thought that he would have over 800 delegates on the first ballot. That is substantially larger than he has claimed personally before, whereas ABC's own total is 790, with a total committed and favorable to Governor Scranton of Pennsylvania, only 183. As Howard Smith indicated a little while ago, we simply want to underline the fact that a chain reaction favoring Goldwater has set in as the result of the Scranton letter. We pause now for 5 seconds only to permit our stations to identify themselves. This is Tim Babcock.
This is the organizational meetings going on. There is a small demonstration going on down on the floor now for Governor Babcock
of Montana.
He's running for re-election, and his supporters decided to. It often happens that politicians come here and run for re-election before the television cameras, and that's what has happened this time.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and my fellow...
Now, we expect to hear from President Eisenhower in his St. Francis Hotel suite in just a moment. Now, here is President Eisenhower with Bill Lawrence and James Haggerty of ABC. We switch to the St. Francis Hotel.
Welcome again, General Eisenhower, to our ABC cameras and microphones. Can you tell us about your meeting this morning with Senator Goldwater?
Well, yes, he came in just for a personal call. I've known him for a long time, as you well know. And it was just another friend coming in, and he had nothing of a substantive character to bring up. We chatted about some of the little developments, and he went out, and we had our pictures taken.
Did he give you an indication of his delegate strength at this point, as he sees it?
No, he didn't. He didn't. Matter of fact, we didn't bring up those questions at all.
You have not yet seen Governor Scranton?
No, not since I've come back here. Well, I saw him briefly at this gala dinner last evening, just to say hello. But I've been told that we can arrange a mutual convenient time while he's going to come over to see me.
General, there is some disagreement, of course, out here on the civil rights plank in the platform. The plank, as it now reads, and I had this copy down, is full implementation and faithful execution of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and all other civil rights statutes to assure equal rights and opportunities guaranteed by the Constitution to every citizen. Would you think that there should be more added to this plank?
I think it could be helped some, yes, Jim. You will recall that during my years in the White House, we constantly referred to this question as a moral one as well as a legal one. If we are going to depend completely on a great federal police force to go and investigating a group to find out all the violations and get an enormous, I might say, law enforcement thing and depend only on law, then I think we're making a mistake. I really would like to see the Republican Party to commit itself and all its members, as so far as possible, all Americans, to adopt a moral commitment. All of us are saying, in effect, we are going to try to make this work quietly, calmly, as just as decency and fairness dictate. And in this way, I think, we will lessen the need for, you might say, every kind of organization to prying around to see whether there's been a violation. I personally would like to, myself, take a pledge to help with that as a loyal Republican, take a pledge to that effect.
Well, then you would want a little more on the platform, or would this be done?
Well, you might do it by just the candidates